This is Bloomberg Crypto, a daily Bloomberg iHeart podcast, and I'm Stacey Marie Ishmael, managing editor of crypto for Bloomberg News. It's Monday, January 9th. The collapse of FTX has had some obvious reverberations. Its creditors, most importantly, aren't sure if they'll ever get their money back. But the fall of Sam Bankmam-Fried's empire has also affected a blockchain network called Solana, one of the newer and buzzier players on the crypto scene. Bankman-Fried was a champion of both the blockchain itself and of its associated token, SOL, or SOL. FTX and Solana Ventures even had a multi-million-dollar fund to support crypto gaming, and Alameda Research, famously or infamously, invested directly into that token. But what does the collapse of FTX mean for the future of this blockchain and of that token? Bloomberg's Hannah Miller has been reporting on this and joins me now.
The narrative that they're really trying to push forward is that they've outgrown FTX, that they're more than FTX, and they want to move beyond this association.
In this episode, you'll hear excerpts from Hannah Miller's interviews with the founders of Solana, Anatoly Yakovenko and Raj Gokul. Hannah, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Today, we're not going to talk about venture capital, but we are going to talk about a little blockchain, or I suppose not so little anymore, called Solana, and what that blockchain and its founders and its native token have to do with Mr. Bankman-Fried and all things FTX.
Yeah, so Solana came about as this blockchain that was supposed to be faster and cheaper to use than Ethereum. And yeah, its speed is its big selling point. And it was created by Anatoly Yakovenko. And he, kind of put it together. It's actually named after Solana Beach in California, where he liked to surf. The blockchain really only just launched in the past few years. It's pretty young, especially in comparison to big names like Bitcoin and Ethereum. But it's really just shot up in prominence. Really, one of the people who kind of helped it, get to this point was Sam Bankman-Fried. He was a major champion of Solana in its early days.
Why though? Like what was his interest in the founders, in the token? Like, was it financial? Was it a partnership?
Yeah, so we do know that he did have this relationship with the founders. He and Anatoly, would appear together at conferences, do virtual fireside chats. And SBF was really, pushing this forward as, a great alternative to, things like Ethereum and especially Bitcoin. SBF is not a big Bitcoin fan.
I don't think the Bitcoin people are a fan of SBF either.
Yes, yeah, it definitely goes two ways. But with Solana, SBF took some big chances on it. So, for example, FTX US has an NFT marketplace. And when you think of non-fungible tokens, you think of Ethereum. Like, most NFTs are based on Ethereum. But Bankman-Fried chose to launch FTX US's NFT marketplace on Solana. So that was like a really big stamp of approval for the blockchain. And it also has a lot of associations with gaming. And as we know, SBF is a huge gamer, that he was playing games during calls with venture capital investors. And, I think that was part of the blockchain's appeal to him as well. He also built Serum, which is a decentralized crypto exchange on Solana. And I always thought that was kind of interesting because FTX was a centralized crypto exchange and Serum is decentralized. It doesn't really seem to go together.
So there's this idea in crypto, and when folks are talking about blockchains, of something called the blockchain trilemma, which, if you think about it as being kind of three legs of a triangle, on one side you have this idea of speed, is this thing fast or is it slow? You have this idea of scalability. Can this scale up to handle really large volumes of things at once, or is it more, shall we say, bespoke? And then is it really decentralized, right? Like, are there lots of different relatively independent players contributing to the safety, security, stability of this platform, or does it rely to an extreme degree on a concentrated group of entities? As far as where Solana is in this, three legs of this triangle, you've mentioned speed, but what are the concerns? Like, what are the sacrifices it's making in order to be that fast?
Yeah, well, I think with Solana, one of the criticisms that's sort of followed the blockchain since its inception is that it's too centralized, that there aren't enough parties, verifying and adding transactions to the blockchain. And that actually makes it susceptible to attacks and not as secure. And we've also seen, this is a blockchain that suffered multiple outages, in the past year. So that's another point of concern, that this is just not a stable enough blockchain. So yeah, maybe it does hit on speed and scalability, but I do think that there's still this lingering concern among, people within the crypto industry.
And how do the founders, because they have to deal with a few lingering concerns right now, including, the elephant in the room of their perceived association with Sam Bankman-Fried. You interviewed them quite extensively. Like, how would you summarize where their heads were at in that interview?
Yeah, so I think it did hurt them on a personal level. Anatoly spoke about being in shock, that he couldn't really square what happened with FTX with, how he knew Sam Bankman-Fried to be.
I can't, put the two together in my head still. I'm still trying to, square what I perceived them to be and, what actually happened. It just feels really, really jarring.
Here's Solana's Raj Gokul.
Yeah, same. I think everybody in the industry that knew Sam, and especially the other people at FTX, there were a lot of really good people that, that worked with FTX and worked even within FTX. And I think even they are just totally shocked. I don't think anybody knew that the problems in that organization would be at
the narrative that they're
level.
really trying to push forward is that they've outgrown FTX, that they're more than FTX, and they want to move beyond this association, and that there are great things happening on the blockchain, that there are still projects and teams committed to Solana. But it was tough to talk to them about it. I mean, they had their big conference in Lisbon around this time, around when all the stuff started coming out about FTX, and they sort of realized the magnitude of this on the way home, on the flight home from their Breakpoint conference. And the conference, they felt, had been a huge success, but this just sort of dampened everything.
Really great. And then on the flight back, we started seeing the news of FTX blowing up and Binance buying them and not buying them. And this fallout of that was really hard to square with the energy that we felt during the conference. But the last, basically right after that,
a lot of people in the industry, they're really still grappling with what happened here.
As part of that grappling, is there anything that they said they would do differently? Do they feel confident, I'm going to use our favorite phrase, in the underlying technology of the blockchain? Or are there changes that they need to make to, for example, address the concerns about the lack of decentralization?
I think they 100% feel confident in the underlying technology. And I feel like they think that's what's going to carry them through. That they believe that there are amazing decentralized projects being built on Solana, and that this will mitigate, the risk of centralized entities like FTX, potentially taking advantage of people.
Up next, more with Bloomberg reporter Hannah Miller on the future of Solana, one of FTX's most championed blockchain networks. We'll be right back. So still a couple of days before Bankman-Fried officially filed for bankruptcy, but when he was engaged in a very public set of Twitter conversations with the CEO of Binance, it all feels like history, but it was last couple of months. But Solana had been declining pretty significantly that week. They were down like multiple percentage points in a given day. And then over the course of the 7 days, including following the bankruptcy, tens of percents at a time. Do they think that the Solana token is going to come back? Or, were people just worried about the prospects for a post-Bankman-Fried future? Like, where does their optimism for the pricing come from?
Yeah, so when I asked them about, these massive declines in, the price of Sol, they said they don't really care about token price, or they don't comment on it. They don't comment on it publicly. And, that there's more to blockchain than just token price, that it's really all about the technology underlying it. But they did point out that Ethereum has gone down a lot too. So I think they wanted to make that clear. So it's, but I think it's hard to separate the two. I mean, the token is, for a lot of people, how they know about the blockchain. It's, what they use to trade on it. That's what they associate with it. So I do think it's hard to separate the two. And whatever way you look at it, there's just been this huge decline since its all-time high in 2021. I mean, you go from hundreds of dollars to around $10, and that's a hard thing to argue against. It's hard to argue against that being a bad thing for the overall image of your blockchain.
Now, you mentioned NFTs and the fact that Bankman-Fried and FTX had sort of backed NFTs on Solana, but as you've also been reporting, the overall NFT market is not doing super well. Is the Solana NFT market an outlier in any way? Is it, in line with the rest of, with the Ethereum-based tokens? Is it seeing better or worse performance?
NFTs based on Solana have taken hits as well. And also one thing I want to point out is actually two prominent projects that have their NFTs based on Solana are actually migrating over to Ethereum and Polygon. So, and that was just announced recently. So it is interesting to kind of see that maybe some projects have had their confidence shaken in the Solana blockchain. So as much as, these founders say the underlying technology is strong, the fact that you have projects leaving, that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah. And with NFTs in general, I mean, there is this big question, are they just a fad? Is this a dead fad now? Because sales are down so enormously and there's such mistrust within the crypto community in general now. And actually, this just happened, but Magic Eden, which is the top NFT marketplace on Solana, has just had major security issues, where they've actually had to work out bugs. People were buying fake NFTs. It's not a good look right now. And it's especially not a good look going into 2023, which I think has to be a reset year for all of the digital asset industry.
I mean, I just saw someone tweet, "It's time to build." And I was like, really? Are we still doing this?
No, it's time to reflect.
Yeah, I think that would probably be a useful thing for various folks in the industry to consider. But on the point of reflection, there was an absolutely, to me, revealing line in the story that you wrote about your interview with the Solana founders. And it was the idea that one of the reasons that they think they'll be fine is because people in crypto have very short memories. Now, on the one hand, yes, we have certainly seen folks and projects, shall we say, rehabilitate themselves under many different circumstances and guises. On the other hand, it does look like folks in crypto are more than willing to hold a grudge for a very, very long time. Where does their kind of belief in the eternal sunshine, as it were, of the crypto mind come from?
Yeah, well, Raj Gokal, he made this point that crypto has overcome a lot of adversity in the past. If you look at Bitcoin, there's Mt. Gox, and that took forever to resolve. But, Bitcoin's still around. Bitcoin's still, still here. But I think in this scenario, it's quite different. Crypto has become more mainstream. Your grandmother knows what Bitcoin is now. And even though crypto is more popular and more well-known now, there's also this huge trade-off that every misstep happens on a bigger scale. People are going to seize onto headlines. They're going to kind of lap up what's happening here. There are people who are actively excited about this downfall. So yes, even though there have been these setbacks in the past, I don't think there's been anything on the scale of FTX. And the fact of the matter is, Sam Bankman-Fried was so well known and loved by a lot of people, and a lot of people looked up to him. And the fact that his empire has collapsed is just causing a ripple effect across everything in the industry. And Solana is no exception here. And I know they've looked, there's been a lot of talk about using Solana in gaming. And, actually FTX and Alameda Research supported a bunch of projects, including games that are based on Solana. But I think there's still a pretty long road ahead in terms of, proving that this is the blockchain to use.
For a specific set of use cases.
Yeah. I mean, they want to conquer all of DeFi, decentralized finance. And, when I asked where the future of Solana lies, they have a very, big vision. And they want to hit all of DeFi. And who knows, maybe, with the fear around centralized entities caused by the collapse of FTX, people will migrate towards decentralized finance to a greater degree. We don't know. But I think that's sort of what they're banking on right now.
Well, I think certainly one story we'll be keeping an eye on is whether a blockchain with a reputation for being too centralized can successfully convince people that it should be a backbone of decentralized finance. So
100%, yeah.
Interesting times. Thank you as always, Hannah. You can find more of Hannah Miller's reporting on the Bloomberg terminal and on Bloomberg.com. And you'll sometimes find her in our twice-weekly newsletter, Bloomberg Crypto. Be sure to sign up. This is Bloomberg Crypto, a daily podcast from Bloomberg and iHeartRadio. For more shows from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Send us your comments, questions, or suggestions for the show to crypto@bloomberg.net. The supervising producer of Bloomberg Crypto is Vicky Vergolina. Our senior producer is Janet Babin. Our producers are Mohammed Farouk and Sharon Barrero. Our associate producers are Ty Butler and Moses Undum. Desta Wonderad is our engineer. Original music by Leo Sidran. I'm Stacey Marie Ishmael. We'll be back tomorrow.